Hey y'all, this is Amanda and welcome back to my Texas Zone 8A garden, and today I'm doing a recap of my 2023 cut flower garden and really kind of going back and evaluating my original 4 goals from the beginning of the year and seeing how I did as the year went on. Okay, so back at the beginning of 2023, I did a video about the goals for my cut flower garden for 2023, and I'll drop that video in the video description below if you're interested in watching. And there are 4 main areas that I really was focusing on. So I really wanted to touch base on those, see how I did, and seeing if I was able to accomplish any of those goals this year. So when I'm coming up with goals for my garden, I really try to give myself a wide variety of goals. And I like to give myself some visual goals. I like to give myself some more like beneficial insects or beneficial for the environment kind of goals. I also like to give myself some bigger projects. And then of course, I really love to grow some different varieties of flowers that are new to me that particular year. I also like to achieve these goals I like to be a little thrifty about how I go about it. I try not to just go out and buy a bunch of brand new stuff. I think it's very important to me as a person that I'm not like buying brand new everything. But then also as a creator, I really like to show that you don't have to go buy from, all of the stuff that's online that people are saying, hey, you need this, or I did this, or don't you want this, and that kind of thing. I really like to show that there are other avenues to go about achieving a lot of your goals within your gardening world without buying all the products new. I also like to have some bigger goals versus some smaller goals. Some bigger goals, building a new portion of the garden versus smaller goals, maybe making sure I'm growing a new variety of floral or a new variety of seeds or something along those lines. I definitely think it's important to give yourself some achievable goals, some easily achievable goals, and then give yourself some bigger, more loftier goals. Because if you only give yourself these huge, massive goals that you have, 80 steps to get to the end product, it can be really defeating. So give yourself a balance of those. I will be coming out with my 2024 cut flower garden goals, and actually I'm going to switch it from cut flower garden to just garden goals because I am exploring many aspects of it. But that's going to be something that's coming out probably the first week in January, and I'm really excited to show y'all what my plans are for 2024. But let's recap 2023, and the first big goal that I had for 2023 was rotating the different varieties into different places within my garden. So basically the idea was I didn't want to grow all the same things in the same place over and over and over again each year, which is what I had typically done in the past. I've been like, hey, this is my zinnia bed, or hey, this is my larkspur bed, or this is my snapdragon bed. I've always done that in the past. And this year, I really wanted to force myself to put some different varieties in different places. Now, why would I want to rotate my quote unquote crops of flowers? Well, there's a couple of different reasons. First of all, it's just really good for your soil nutrients. When you're growing the same things in the same place over and over and over again, you really deplete the nutrients in that particular area. You can also really mess up the biodiversity in a particular area if you're growing the same crop over and over and over again. Now, I am not growing things on a really large scale. I don't actually think that rotating my flowers is like this massive, huge beneficial thing for my small garden. But if you are someone who has a larger area, it makes sense to move some things into some different places. One of the really big things about rotating your crops is it can really mess with the cycle of particular pests or insects. So if you have a particular pest that has just been chewing through your crop year after year after year, what you can do is plant that crop in a different area, and theoretically the insects or whatever has been growing in the soil, whatever cycle it's in, you're disrupting it by removing its nutrients, by its food source. And so that can kind of help you with insect control or pest control in your garden. I feel like I'm talking a lot of hands today. So if I had to score myself on rotating, I'd probably give myself like a 65. 65%. So like a D. I didn't pass. Well, I guess technically a D is passing. In my world, 70 or above is passing. So I think I kind of failed at that, but not miserably. I didn't fail miserably. I think that I was really focused on it at the beginning of the year. And then as my goals started to continue, I kind of changed directions on what I was doing, because the more research I did, the more I had the realization that my plot of land is so small and my garden is so small that changing things out isn't making as big of a difference as I think it is. But I do think growing different varieties throughout the garden is extremely helpful as well. My big issues with pests and insect control this year, as always, is spider mites, and it was definitely out of control this year, especially with our drought and extremely high temperatures. Kind of is what it is with the spider mites. I could definitely go out and battle them, but y'all know that my philosophy is kind of, I don't do that. I'll do some, but basically survival of the fittest in the garden. And it's not something I enjoy doing, battling all the pests and stuff. So that's why I was thinking that crop rotation would really help out within my garden regarding that. Not so much after I continued doing the research. So like I said, I try to be really upfront about the things that I'm doing and then my failures, and then like, hey, it didn't really work or it didn't really make that much of a difference. I think that maybe if I continue to rotate crops year after year, that it would continue to make a difference. I don't think it would be a noticeable difference because my garden is so small. I think that if I had an area where I was doing a traditional layout of rows and rows and rows of flowers, it would absolutely make a difference in a situation like that. Okay, let's go on to my second goal for the year, which was heirloom chrysanthemum garden. And I think if I'm going to rate myself on that, I'm going to give myself like an A, like a high A, because I think I did really good on my heirloom chrysanthemum garden. Now, in the fall of 2022, after I had a miserable year with dahlia tubers where they were just disastrous, and I had spent, once again, a lot of money, like $400 on all of them, and then gotten nothing, I was just so fed up with it. And I was thinking, maybe I'm not cut out for dahlias. Maybe this is not a good environment in my backyard for dahlia tubers. Even though I've met lots of people in the North Texas area who grow dahlias beautifully, it wasn't working for me. So I continued to do some research, and I came across heirloom chrysanthemums, which I fully believe is like the hot thing. And I think that in the next 5 to 10 years, everybody's gonna be growing heirloom chrysanthemums. And when I say chrysanthemums, I don't necessarily mean like the mums that you get at the grocery store or at the big box store in the fall. I mean heirloom varieties that are tall, long, beautiful stems, unusual colors, varieties, textures that are typically used by florists or sold within the floral world. Now, these are cultivated by cuttings, not necessarily by seed. They're, even since 2022, when I went and ordered a bunch of varieties, I originally ordered from Bluestone Perennials. Since then, I have discovered at least a dozen other places where you can purchase heirloom chrysanthemums, either the plant or cuttings, rooted cuttings from them. And the prices range drastically. The plants tend to be more expensive and the cuttings are less expensive. I started with Bluestone Perennials, and I started with them because they're a tried and true company that has been in business forever and ever. Buffy found a soil bag down here that she's laying on. Bluestone Perennials has been in a business for a long time, and so I felt really good about their reputation, and I felt good about the money that I was investing, knowing that I was going to be working with their particular company. So I ordered a wide variety of chrysanthemums to be delivered in spring of 2023. So come around to spring of 2023, I get my delivery of all my chrysanthemum plants. I cultivate a bed in the backyard where I plant my chrysanthemum plants. I'm really excited. They're all teeny tiny and I'm ready to go. The big goal was to have a beautiful harvest in the fall. I wasn't necessarily looking to have a harvest in the spring. However, this next year for spring of 2024, I'm pretty sure I'm going to have a pretty good heirloom chrysanthemum harvest for the spring. Once I got all the bluestone perennials, mums planted, then I got contacted by King's Mums. I had been on their waiting list and they did have some additional varieties available. So I ordered several varieties of cuttings. I now have over 25 varieties of mums that I'm growing in my backyard. The experience has been amazing. When I go back and I think and I compare how I felt after just disastrous, issues with the dahlia tubers, and then how I feel now after having just this beautiful harvest of chrysanthemums, hands down, it was the best thing I could have done, shifting my direction towards the heirloom chrysanthemums. I definitely spent approximately about $400 to $500 on chrysanthemums that fall of 2022 through 2023. And I think it was an excellent investment because these are perennials in my particular area. They're going to come back year after year after year. I don't have to dig them up like I do dahlia tubers. I don't have to stress about, is the soil too wet? They didn't really have any pests that they were dealing with. Like, it was just thing after thing after thing that just made the world of heirloom chrysanthemums amazing and so much better than what I was dealing with dahlias. I also just really loved the color palettes that are available. I love a lot of the fall tones, a lot of the rust and the orange, but there are also some beautiful pale pinks, and there's ruby reds, and there's purples and lavenders, and just a ton of them. I do anticipate that I am going to invest in additional heirloom chrysanthemums this next year, and I do expect that I am going to be expanding my garden regarding that. I am thinking that I'm going to be putting additional heirloom chrysanthemums to the left of my Don Juan climbing rose at the back of the house. And I think I'm probably going to add maybe 12 to 15 additional varieties. And when you really think about, I planted these plants or I planted these cuttings, and I planted them mainly in like April, May time. And then I really started getting a lot of growth from them come August and September, and then October and November was when I was able to start harvesting them. In that short amount of time, I was able to harvest armfuls, beautiful armfuls of chrysanthemums after not even a year in the ground. So my hopes for next year are really, really high. And so the goal for next year with the heirloom chrysanthemums is I want to do a harvest in the spring, cut them all back, allow them to grow out throughout the summer, and then have a great harvest in the fall. So it'll be really interesting to see if I can get 2 different harvests next year from them. Okay, so my third big goal for 2023 was whimsical elements within my garden. Whimsical. It's hard for me to say that with my southern accent. Whimsical elements within the garden. That included a wide variety of things. I wanted a lot of thrifted approach to different items. One of the big things I added this year that I really, really enjoyed was the mounted headboard, like that's for a bed, that I purchased off Facebook Marketplace, and I'm using it as a trellis for my Don Juan rose. I really love that. I also invested in a lot of things from Facebook Marketplace and from vintage and antique stores. I invested in a lot of concrete statuary, which is really fun. I had several different ones that I loved that I found at estate sales. Was really happy with that. I also invested in a wide variety of new to me pots. Everything was used. A lot of containers that I got either for free off the side of the road, garage sales, estate sales. So I did add a lot of varieties of elements regarding that. While I think I definitely added a lot more variety of whimsical objects and items and design throughout my garden, I didn't fully hit a lot of the things I wanted to do. Buffy? One of the big things I wanted to do in 2023 was to establish a lot more trellis for climbing plants. And so that is actually going to get shifted over to the docket for 2024. I want to continue my garden upward. I have everything down low. And so this year, that was my goal, to do some more trellis, to do some more structures, and I just didn't get to that part of it. I would probably give myself, regarding the whimsical quality of the garden, probably an 80%. So I think I did fine. I think I got a solid B. I definitely think there are elements I want to improve on. A lot of what needs to happen in my garden is to have more destination points. And so that was the goal with some of these trellis ideas and this whimsical quality in the garden, is I would have destination points within the garden. So that'll be a focus next year. One of my other big goals for whimsical quality is lighting. And while that was a massive goal and I bought all the things, like I got it gifted, I found them on Facebook Marketplace, I searched all year for all the lighting things, and I have all the things I need, I didn't put one thing up, not one, not one. So I have everything I need. I have beautiful cafe lighting to go throughout the entire garden. I have these beautiful, whimsical little fairy picks that are just sprays of light to be tucked into different portions of the garden. I have lots of wonderful lighting options for the garden. And when I say the garden, I mean the backyard garden. And I didn't put one of them up. I mean, some of them I got gifted for Mother's Day. So here we are 7 months later. Didn't get it done. So but I assume that it'll be pretty easy to transition that and get that taken care of at the beginning of 2024. You know how it is with your garden. You get going and then months later you're like, what happened? Where'd the time go? So I definitely spent a lot of time planning, figuring out, and getting the items I needed for lighting. So I definitely got a lot of it done. I just didn't get actually installed into the garden. So that'll be some interesting stuff coming up next year for you all to see. Okay, so the final big goal for 2023 was my shade garden. And I feel like for my shade garden, I definitely give myself like an A+. I'm feeling really happy about what I've achieved with the shade garden. In the beginning, when I talked about the shade garden in 2023, it was a vision in my head, and I just started to draw out some ideas and save some ideas. And so while I didn't create the shade garden at the beginning of 2023, like the first half was really spent exploring ideas and the potential for the shade garden area. And I had a lot of dreams for it. So I wanted to achieve some of those dreams, but then also I just needed to have like a reality check regarding budget, regarding space, regarding drainage, just several things in those areas to really make sure that I was putting in a garden or a situation, a space that was relevant and made sense for my area. I didn't really want to go in and put in something that would degrade within the next 5 years, that would cause massive flooding to other parts of my garden because my drainage wasn't appropriate. I didn't want to put in any permanent plants into the ground that I was unsure of. I wanted to explore more of a container garden styling, a container garden style in my shade garden. I definitely wanted the elements to be as thrifted as possible, so reused and repurposed elements. There are several things that I really wanted to achieve with the shade garden, so I spent so much time planning and collecting the items that it's really only been during the fall that I've really started going on the shade garden. Now, the shade garden is not complete, but that was not one of my goals for 2023. My goal was not to complete the shade garden. My goal was to get the shade garden started. And I definitely think I have made significant jumps in the shade garden, from laying down all the original weed barriers and topping it all with mulch, to installing that beautiful Vigo planter that we're going to have a ton of plants in. I'm actually planting plants tomorrow in that container. And then building my own kind of garden workbench space back there, which is great. I've also installed a drip system back there, which is wonderful there. And then of course the beautiful entrance to the garden, which was really, really fun. It's not done. It still has to be stained, but it has to cure for several months before I can do that. But installing that look, I mean, I got a lot done, and I'm feeling really, really great about it. And this shade garden is really, it's a couple of things for me. It is a new experiment and exploration into plants that I don't typically grow, which is very exciting for me. It's also an opportunity to show people in my area or wherever you might live that you can create your own shade garden. You don't have to already have a space established. So one of the things that I did not get done, and actually I've got all the stuff to do it, it just hasn't happened, is installing the shade sail over the top of the shade garden. That will cast everything into a deeper, darker shade, which is the ultimate goal. So that's one of the things I wanted to show people, like, hey, you can just go make your own shade and then have your own shade garden going. I also feel like in all the houses I've lived in over the years, there's always this weird side yard that I never know what to do with. And it's just a pass through for the mowers or whatever. And so that's what I was able to do with the shade garden, is take this kind of really weird side yard space and turn it into something useful, something beautiful, and something that really brings me peace. Now, speaking of peace, that was a really big part of creating this shade garden, especially when we're going, 90 days of drought, 100-degree temps. It's really tough during the summer. I needed a reprieve. I needed peace. I needed a space that I could go to during the hottest parts of the year and feel, cooler. That feel a peaceful space that wasn't just, tortured with sunlight and heat. So that was a really important aspect of the shade garden. The shade garden is also going to be filled with lots of whimsy over time. I think it's going to be just a really fun space that I can go to. I want it to feel like a cocoon. I don't want it to be spread out and airy. I really want plants to grow up towards the middle. I want to walk in and I just want to feel like hugged by everything within the shade garden. So I'm really looking forward to continuing that for 2024, but I really definitely feel like I definitely hit my goals for the shade garden for 2023. All in all, I feel like 2023 was another wonderful gardening year. In actuality, I feel like every time I get to garden, I'm very lucky. This is not a cheap hobby that I have. A lot of people don't have time, so this gardening is expensive for cost, it's expensive for time, and it's expensive for space. So I'm lucky to be able to do a wide variety of, achieve and conquer some of those aspects of gardening. I think definitely 2023 was a better year for me than 2022. So I feel really good about that. I definitely had a lot more successes, and I definitely saw a big jump in my garden. And I think that happens, this is a newer garden. I've only lived in my house 5 years, and I basically started from scratch. One of the first things I did when I moved in was remove all of the builder's grade plants in the front yard. And I've been building ever since then. So this is a relatively new garden. Most of it, I would say, is only maybe 2 years old. Some aspects of it are up to 4 years old. But it's a very young garden, but I felt like there's a massive jump in growth and structure to the garden this year. I also felt like I challenged myself to do some different things in the garden. One of the big things I did is try to use a different color palette. I tried to do a bunch of more warm colors, and that was a really fun experiment. I've discovered that I love reds in the garden. There's just a certain level of romance regarding red tones, and I really like that. I also feel like I've experimented with some new to me plants, a wide variety of them, but specifically roses. I'm really excited. I'm really excited to see what I do with roses in 2024. I've also pushed a lot of my plantings towards perennials. So I've installed quite a few perennials this past spring and this past fall. And I think that that's going to be really nice as I continue to watch those grow up over the years. That also, there's an investment in those perennials, but now I don't have to invest in annuals to fill that space. So I think that's really great as well. One of the other things I really am proud of myself for 2023 is how many things I started from seed. I grew thousands. I grew a lot of plants this year from seed. Most of them I kept for myself. I gave several to family and friends and other gardeners. But it was really fun to really kind of push myself regarding that and to have appropriate expectations for the seed gardening. Of course, I want to grow a plant that looks like I went and picked it up at the nursery, right? But in reality, I don't necessarily have the situation for that or the setup for that. So the goal was to get the seeds started, have a healthy seedling, get it outside so that it could grow in, and then maybe in a month or two, I would finally have the plant that looked like I had picked it up from the nursery. I started several perennials from seed, tons and tons and tons and tons of annuals, which is really fun. I did experiment a little bit more with vegetables. We'll be doing more of that in 2024. But I was really proud of myself for how much I started from seed and how much I was able to accomplish with that. There were definitely a lot of failures with seed. Don't get me wrong. I killed tons and tons, mainly forgetting to water. That's my biggest thing. I'm terrible at remembering to water my seedlings, even though they're inside my house and I look at them every day, doing the best I can. But yeah, so I think that that was another aspect of 2023 that I think I did a good job on. I saved myself a lot of money. And you know, it makes me excited for 2024 because, as you all know, if you've been following me, I've already started petunias. I'm looking across. I've already got a ton of cuttings of my coleus. I have a ton of begonias back here. It's starting to actually sprout it, but the sprouts are so tiny, y'all. But my begonias sprouted, which I'm really excited about that. So I'm actually already have a good step into 2024 regarding some of these varieties that take a little bit longer. In January, we'll definitely be hitting seed starting really hard. Okay, so now I would really like some of your feedback, if you don't mind. My channel has definitely seen some growth this year. It hasn't grown as much as I kind of hoped it would, but one of the other things I said about 2023 is that I was just going to make videos that I wanted to make. I was not going to follow the trends. I was not going to do what all the other, like I was not going to like see another YouTuber and scramble to do whatever they were doing, right? And I didn't want to do all the things everybody else was doing. And that's a double-edged sword, right? Because I might not necessarily be putting out content that people are wanting, which is understandable. I definitely put out a lot of content of what I wanted. And I think there's a balance on that regarding success. I might not have had tons of success in numbers and growth, but I did have success in my own joy and peace. And so I hope that that was a success for y'all as well. I hope you feel some joy and peace when you're watching the videos. I definitely want to teach and learn, but I also just want to be myself, like who I am. I don't want to change who I am. I don't want to be a certain way on the video. I don't want it to be an act, and I'm not an actress. So I just need to be my weird self. You know, sometimes I'm goofy, sometimes I'm sad, sometimes I'm pensive, sometimes I'm smiley. So, you know, I just am who I am. So I felt good about the content I put out because the content made me happy. However, my content didn't bring in hundreds of thousands of people, which is fine, which is totally okay. And I do constantly have to remind myself of that. I think as a YouTube or content creator, you're constantly comparing yourself to other people. And that is an aspect because I think it is good to evaluate yourself. But I definitely didn't want to model myself after other people. I really just wanted to do my own thing. I wanted to show how I garden, how I figure out, and what's going on in my brain. But I know that's not for everyone. So your feedback, I would love some of your feedback regarding videos this year. If there's areas that you've really felt that stood out that you want me to create more content on those areas. If you feel like, hey, Amanda, I think that you could do this aspect a little better. I definitely have had some comments regarding audio. And so I actually, for Christmas, I asked for a new microphone so that I can have some better audio for you all, which would be great. I would love any kind of feedback if there's things that you would like to see me grow or try in this area, or if you feel like I need to concentrate more on particular areas. One of the things I'm going to do is a little bit more vegetable. Now I'm still team flower. Definitely still team flower, that I am wanting to experiment a little bit more with vegetables, mainly the mixing, companion planting of vegetables and flowers. Really looking forward to that. But I would be really interested in what you have to say. I asked for you to do it in a graceful way so that I don't cry when I read the comments. That would be amazing. But yeah, I really am interested in what you all have to say. I definitely have a core group of people that have been watching me for a while, and I get really great feedback from them, from Rosemary and Marion and Michelle, and there's a wide variety of y'all. That's just a few off the there's dozens and dozens people who consistently comment and give feedback, and I'm really appreciative of that. And even though most of y'all I've never met, although I have met Marion, the most of y'all I've never met, it is really nice to see you guys commenting. It really makes my day. And it really does make the whole process of putting myself out here on YouTube, it really makes the process easier. Seeing those consistent people coming back, that they obviously have some joy in watching my content, or they wouldn't consistently be watching and commenting. All right. I do want to end with saying thank you. Thank you for a wonderful 2023. I got goosebumps, and it makes me tear up a little bit. I have found a lot of joy in creating these videos for you all. It makes me... I started all of this partway through COVID, and my outlook on the world changed during COVID, and I felt sad, and I felt isolated and alone. And so I started the YouTube channel, and it has, all of you all have filled a place in my heart that just, it gives me hope, lots of hope. And so every time I create a video, whether it's good or bad, I have hope. I hope that I'm putting something out there that's good for the world, even if it's only for a small amount of people. That's good for the world, or that brings a smile, or makes you think, or starts a conversation. I really hope that's really my goal, and I just want to say thank you for allowing me to continue to bring content. Thank you for watching, thank you for commenting, and thank you for letting me be a little part of your world each week. It means a whole lot more to me than you can ever imagine. All right, you all, very excited. There's still going to be a few more videos for 2023. And then I am excited to get started for 2024. And I cannot wait to see what the possibilities, like what I'm going to achieve in 2024. Very excited. All right, you all, as always, make sure you hit that subscribe button and that notification bell so you know when my latest videos are up. And be sure to check me out on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. As always, she's Mad Gardener or a decorator or anything else that she wants to be. Thanks, y'all.